Sea monsters. For as long as humans have sailed across open waters, strange and terrifying creatures have lingered in the collective imagination. Ancient sailors told stories of creatures larger than ships, with eyes glowing in the darkness and tentacles capable of dragging men beneath the waves. Were these beasts real? Were they exaggerated accounts of genuine encounters with unknown marine life? Or were they warnings, myths molded by fear and uncertainty at sea? The writings left behind by ancient civilizations suggest encounters so vivid and detailed that one question still remains: what exactly were sailors really seeing? To understand the stories of sea monsters, it is important to recall the world of ancient seafaring. Thousands of years ago, when early sailors set out along the Mediterranean, the Indian Ocean, and eventually the Atlantic, the sea was one of the most dangerous frontiers imaginable. Navigation depended heavily on the stars, changing winds, and seasonal patterns that were not always predictable. Shipbuilding technology was still developing, and vessels often became vulnerable in storms. In this environment, the ocean itself was mysterious, vast, and largely unknown. For cultures from Greece to Mesopotamia, unexplained shapes in the water or unidentifiable animal behavior easily became mythological tales of monsters lurking just beneath the waves. The earliest references to monstrous sea creatures appear in Mesopotamian mythology. Texts from as early as the 2nd millennium BC mention Tiamat, a primordial goddess often described as embodying chaotic waters and appearing in a massive serpentine form. While Tiamat was not portrayed as a literal sea creature spotted by sailors, such myths shaped the mindset of ancient cultures about the dangers that lived in the deep. Any unknown marine beast could be woven into this framework of chaos and destruction. What modern readers often miss is that for those living along the rivers of Mesopotamia and the Persian Gulf, sea encounters were both real and terrifyingly unfamiliar. Ancient Greece produced some of the most enduring stories of sea monsters. Writings from Homer, Hesiod, and later historians mention the terrifying Scylla, a creature with multiple heads lurking near rocky straits, and Charybdis, a whirlpool described in monstrous terms. While these were mythological, there are other accounts suggesting sailors believed they had truly seen something strange in the water. Historians note that Greek sailors traveling through the Strait of Messina would have observed severe whirlpools caused by tidal patterns, and coastal rock outcroppings gave rise to descriptions of clawed and many-headed forms. These myths blended natural hazards with imaginative descriptions, transforming real threats into monsters of legend. By the 1st century AD, Roman writers attempted to catalog sea creatures in a more systematic way. Pliny the Elder's Natural History described enormous fish, serpents, and squid-like beings reportedly seen by sailors. One account told of a creature allegedly washed ashore during the reign of the Emperor Tiberius, measured as over 200 feet in length. Many modern scholars interpret such reports as exaggerated sightings of whales or giant squid, animals often encountered when they surfaced unexpectedly against fragile wooden ships. Roman attempts to categorize these strange phenomena reveal that even in the age of empire, the sea remained an unpredictable space filled with unsettling mysteries. In medieval Scandinavia, Norse sagas described an infamous monster called the Kraken. According to texts compiled between the 13th and 14th centuries, the Kraken was a colossal sea beast lurking off the coast of Norway and Greenland. It was said to be so vast that sailors mistook its back for an island, only to realize too late when it moved and dragged ships under. Although these tales sound like legends, historians believe sailors may have been encountering giant squid, rare but genuinely massive creatures that live in deep waters. A glimpse of enormous tentacles rising out of the sea in rough conditions would have left a lasting impression on those trying to row wooden vessels across treacherous waters. In medieval Europe, sea monsters took on an added layer of religious symbolism. Bestiaries, illustrated texts that cataloged animals both real and mythical, frequently included depictions of monstrous whales, serpents, and giant fish. These were often described not only as natural dangers, but as moral lessons, visual warnings about sin and deception. One popular tale described a massive fish known as the aspidocolone, which tricked sailors into landing on its back, only to drag them into the sea once they lit fires on what they thought was solid ground. Such descriptions served both as entertainment and as allegory, reflecting a worldview that blended natural phenomenon with spiritual teaching. Across Asia, sailors also recorded visions of strange sea creatures. Chinese texts from the Han Dynasty referred to monstrous fish and dragon-like beings surfacing near ships, while Japanese folklore carried stories of massive yokai, or supernatural entities, dwelling beneath the water. In the Indian Ocean, Persian and Arabic sailors spoke of creatures resembling dragons or monstrous whales, often combined with supernatural themes. These traditions shared a common thread. The sea was alien, unpredictable, and endlessly capable of producing creatures beyond human comprehension. To sailors far from land, a sighting of a whale breaching the surface or a school of unfamiliar fish could easily transform into a tale of something terrifyingly larger than life. Today, researchers approach these stories not as fantasies, but as distorted accounts of real encounters. Historians and marine biologists point out that whales, giant squid, and oarfish are the most likely culprits behind many ancient reports. Each of these animals can reach enormous sizes, and to sailors with little prior exposure, they would have appeared monstrous. Oarfish, for instance, can exceed 30 feet in length and have a ribbon-like body, creating an image not unlike reports of sea serpents. Giant squid remain elusive even today, with specimens occasionally washing ashore but rarely seen alive. Modern science does not dismiss sailors' accounts outright, but instead views them as early observations of the ocean's true, yet rarely glimpsed inhabitants. Another angle considered by historians is the psychological impact of long voyages. Sailors often spent weeks or months at sea, surrounded by uncertainty and fatigue. In such conditions, optical illusions, unpredictable waves, and the tendency to interpret strange sights through existing myths played a powerful role in shaping reports. A distant whale spout or the sudden movement of a large shadow beneath the water could be magnified in the collective memory of a frightened crew. Over time, these stories circulated, embellished with each retelling, until they solidified into tales of monsters dwelling in the deep. Cultural frameworks, whether Mesopotamian gods, Greek myths, or Norse sagas, supplied the imagery to transform fleeting encounters into tales of legendary beasts. Even with modern explanations, many sightings remain open to interpretation. Reports across continents often contain remarkable similarities: enormous size, glowing eyes, vast tentacles, and an ability to surface suddenly from the deep. Whether describing the kraken, a sea serpent, or biblical creatures like Leviathan, these accounts persist because the sea itself remains mysterious. 70% of Earth's oceans remain unexplored, with deep-sea creatures still being discovered. Though sailors in antiquity lacked sonar or cameras, their descriptions may have been the first recorded hints of animals still hidden in the uncharted depths. The legends of sea monsters in ancient texts reveal more than just exaggerated storytelling. They show us how early human societies confronted the unknown, turning raw encounters with strange marine life into mythologies that influenced art, religion, and cultural identity. While science today offers rational explanations, the stories themselves endure because they represent the intersection of fear, imagination, and genuine discovery. The oceans of the ancient world were far more dangerous than they are today, and to those who risked their lives upon the waves, the idea of monsters was not merely fantasy, but a reflection of the very real mysteries of the sea. Even now, the question lingers. If so much of the ocean remains unseen, how much of the old legends might still hold a fragment of reality,